Hi everybody, and welcome to another one of our webinars from Elizabeth Woodville Primary School as part of the EdTech Demonstrator project. We're talking this time about teacher voice and how to create engaging content. I'm very pleased to have Sarah Crowhurst join us, our project lead, and James Crowhurst, our lead practitioner in our EdTech Demonstrator School, but also two special guests have joined us, and that is Catherine Parks and Kieran Buckley.
Hello.
And both Catherine and Kieran are newly qualified teachers at Elizabeth Woodville Primary School, and they're going to show you just the kind of amazing, engaging content that you can create and how quickly they've been able to embrace this while embracing everything else that teaching has to offer. What a year to start. How about that? Right, so what we'll do, before we come to the actual content, we always like to talk about the setup. It's really, really important. So we'll hand over to Sarah and James Crowhurst, who are our married double act, able to share a screen because obviously living in the same household, but they're going to show you really how to get the setup right from the very beginning, because we feel if you get that right from the outset, then actually you're free to create. And you can be as creative as you want to be. So James said, just give us an overview for that. And what we'll do is we'll say goodbye for the moment to Catherine and Kieran, and then we'll bring you back a little bit later.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, we always have to say, don't we, bless, that we're married. We are allowed to share a screen, we promise. We take social distancing really seriously at Elizabeth Woodville, but we are allowed to be squished together. Yeah, teacher voice. Why is it important? Well, first of all, students love hearing you, your voice. You're a really important role model to them. They love to hear you, especially at the minute with lockdown happening and children not being in school. It's nice to have that interaction. We will be moving back to classrooms on the 8th of March. But that doesn't mean that this doesn't stop, so you can still use your LMS and the teacher voice will still be just as important. So the next slide, please, Andrew. Andrew's running the tech today, so we're crossing our fingers.
Thank you very much. Yes, really so well. Yeah, that started well. And I think one of the things to really think about, as Sarah has quite rightly said, this is for the long haul now. It's how we can integrate this within our computing curriculums and our wider curriculums. But actually, what we're talking about is these essential elements of remote learning. What is it? Why have we found that teacher voice is so important? And it's all about bringing that classroom into the home. I think that's the key bit. While children have been learning from home, it's that detachment from the classroom that's so concerning for all of us. So if you're filming clips, if you're filming from within the classroom, if you're using voice notes, it's all about bringing that classroom into that home environment as far as you possibly can. It's engaging, we know that, it's highly motivating. James and Sarah are going to talk about interactive apps and quizzes, building on what we did at our previous webinar that you can use to make it engaging. But also, if you about the standards and where we've got the best approach, I think, is where schools have been using this for teacher modelling. I think it's essential because we're supporting pupils and parents in what we're expecting them to create and how to do it. And by doing really visual little video clips of modelling, whether that's maths calculations, whether that's some art that you'll see a clip of later, that's really effective at getting the very highest standards for the work that's being done at home. But also, it's really hard for parents. I mean, this is incredible. They're doing an amazing job without sort of training for specific year groups. And if we're able to give them that specific knowledge or vocabulary that's used in that lesson, that can only enhance the learning that's going on. And we've often been big advocates for the feedback loop for improvement, because actually it shouldn't happen in isolation. It doesn't in the classroom. We're always suggesting improvements. Children will go back and redraft, improve their work. Well, you can create that similar loop through remote learning. And so, yes, we're going to be celebrating a lot of the content that we've been doing and all of us have been doing in our respective schools across the country with home learning, but also looking at how we can take that application and we can actually run with it, can't we, to create a blended approach within the classroom, particularly when perhaps the teacher isn't working with a group. There's a real, lots of opportunities there, I think, for exploration. So I think we'll move back in and have a look now at some of these settings and options that you can get right from the very beginning and the tools at your disposal, James and Sarah.
Yeah, so actually the easiest way to start with increasing your teacher voice is using the tools that you've already got built in. So the next slide, Andrew, please. So in your LMSs, you'll already have some fantastic tools. So we know we use Seesaw here a lot, and we know that Seesaw has the built-in voice instructions, so does Dojo, and you can model and you can talk over all of your content. Google Classroom, unfortunately, doesn't have anything built in, but we're big advocates for Moat. It's very easy to use. It's a Chrome extension, so you can download it, and you can comment then anywhere where you could leave a written comment. So it can be in docs and in slides, private comments and class comments. So you can get all of that instruction in verbally as well. And it's not just written. And that's also so useful, thinking about children who struggle with processing or have dyslexia. To have comments that they can hear is often easier than having to read an awful lot of written instruction. So first of all, use the things you've already got and the things that are built in. And then next slide, Andrew, please. So something else you can use, other software is available, but we like Loom. There's a free version for educators. So you sign up first, and then you go to loom.com/education and you verify your account. They've said it's going to be free for life, so we really hope they keep that, because it is a fantastic tool. And what this allows you to do is video your screen and yourself in a little bubble at the same time. So it's a little bit like those Oak National videos, but it's you. It's you as a teacher. Speaking to your pupils, which makes it so personal. So you can record over anything that goes on your screen, and then videos can be uploaded, used offline, or you can upload them to YouTube or your LMS directly via a link that it gives you right at the end. Next slide, please. There we go. Do just check with Loom those video settings on the right-hand side before you share as a link. We do sort of say have a close look. We make sure that comments are turned off. We don't allow the children to comment on our videos when we give the link out. And we also make sure at the bottom there, you can see there's a toggle. We make sure that no one can download that video to their computer, so it stays really safe where it is. Next slide, Andrew. Yeah, so what can you do with Loom? Use it with the whiteboard app to demonstrate fantastic concepts in math, science, literacy, anything really. I'd say anything that you can put on your screen, you can record over. You could read an online book to your class. And all of this, what it does is adds that personal touch to everything that you're teaching on screen. So sometimes you can't be there physically, but this allows you to be there and be a voice for your pupils to hear. So yeah, use what you've got and have a look at other software like Loom. As I say, others are available, but Loom is free for educators, hopefully for the foreseeable. So it's a great one to have a look at.
And that then brings us on to utilising these tools with apps like quizzing apps. So apps like Google Forms, Kahoot, Microsoft Forms, they all allow you to embed video, which obviously allows you then to be able to put yourself into these quizzes. And you can then just create fun quizzes just for fun at the end of the week to get a bit of engagement out of the children. Or you could use them for things like times tables tests, spelling tests. And that's what one of the key things with the spelling test element of it is the fact that you can read the spellings out in your video, and then obviously the children can answer them on the quiz. You can use them to check misconceptions and use them to check understanding at the end of a topic, or even doing things like comprehension with the quizzes. By creating the quiz with the video, you're adding that extra element in there. You're putting the video in there, and then the children are able to answer questions based on that video. And it increases that engagement again. I mean, quizzes create engagement already, but adding that teacher voice to it, I think it will really get the children involved in wanting to read it. Then take it on from there. There's an app called Ed Puzzle. So if you just go next slide for us, please, Andrew. So Edpuzzle is a brilliant free tool that allows you to add multiple choice questions or even open-ended questions to videos. And that then means that videos that you've created could be from Loom, could be from another application. I mean, some teachers use Teams or Google Meet, etc., to make videos. But these videos that you're making, if you were to download them and put them on YouTube as an unlisted video, or even with Edpuzzle, you can upload them directly to Edpuzzle. There is a limit, I think, of 10 videos on the free application for uploads. From YouTube, there isn't a limit. What it allows you to do then is to be able to add these questions as pause points within your video. So when you've made the video with these pause points in Edpuzzle, you can then send that out via a link, which is called an open class in Edpuzzle, and that can go on to any LMS. Well, they've actually got integration with Google Classroom as well, so it integrates directly into Google Classroom, which we love. And then the students can do watch the video. As they're watching the video, it pauses and they're able to answer the question. Once they've answered the question, it moves on. Once you've got everything finished, once all the children have watched the video, you can then get stats on it as well. So if we just look at the next slide, you can see that the student view for the children in Edpuzzle, they see the YouTube video there on the left, strips out all the adverts and everything as well on the YouTube video, which is another bonus. And then when it hits a pause point where you put a question, they get the question on the right. If it's multiple choice, they select the answer and then they move on. If it's an open-ended question, then they can type into the box, type in their answer in that way as well. It's a really powerful tool because then when they're finished watching the video, if we go on to the next slide, you can get feedback on all of that. So you can see how much of the video the student has watched. You can see which questions have answered incorrectly or correctly. You can save all of that as an Excel spreadsheet as well. So you get all of this powerful information right at your fingertips, and you get all of that with other quizzing apps as well. But this is just another way of doing quizzes. So yeah, kids love doing Kahoot, they love doing Google Forms, Microsoft Forms. But then with Edpuzzle, it just creates, again, another way of doing things. And because we can put the link to it straight into our LMS, it doesn't matter that we're using a different platform or something different, because for the children, it's really simple for them to use from their end. Yeah, there's some of the apps and quizzes that we're using. So with all of those, in particular Edpuzzle, you can use them for explaining things like literacy concepts, maths concepts, great for topic work. And I know we've said about using our voice with them, but you can look at using them with other videos out there as well. There is that option there as well. So I don't think it just has to be your videos. Brilliant for looking like doing maths quizzes, looking at science, explaining how different science topics work. And you can get a real feel if the children are understanding that content when they're watching it. So it keeps them more engaged with the video. They've got to be clued on and switched on and listening to everything that's going on, because they know in a minute they're going to get a question, and they know the teacher's going to see if they get it right or wrong. And obviously all the kids, they always want to get the questions right. So it just gets them more engaged, more switched on, and clued on with being able to watch those videos. Then if we, then that's everything to do with the apps and screen recording, everything you can do there. And I think now we're going to hand over to Kieran and Andrew, who are going to talk to us a bit more about how they've used Teacher Voice in Seesaw. But obviously everything that they're doing can also be used in other LMSs as well. The whole concepts are the same.
So thank you very much, James and Sarah. We will see you back a little bit later for Q&A. Thank you very much. Getting it all right from the beginning, that's what it's all about. But again, this time looking at Edpuzzle, and just a great way of working. And again, quizzes last the week before half term. Now we're looking at Edpuzzle. Great things to use. So Kieran, we're going to now talk, and we'll bring Catherine in a moment as well. We're going to talk about how you've engaged, particularly in your first year of teaching as well, with a range of these programs while dealing with everything else that throws at you. But really, you're a foundation stage teacher, aren't you?
Yes, I am. So we've got the first example here is all centered on maths and exploring 2D shapes. So composing and decomposing 2D shapes and realizing that 2D shapes can be molded into different things. So as you can see here, this is a fish, for those of you wondering. And this video just exemplifies how I created this animal, all by using the resources available to me in Seesaw. So this video gives you a step-by-step guide of how to do it. Okay, but I also, in the audio commentary, so the instructions, I also offered an alternative way of doing this, a way they can create the shapes using Seesaw, but then they can cut them out and use it physically in front of them as well. So I've found giving children alternatives really helps with them interacting and engaging with your lessons. Okay, and it also provides the opportunity for children to take charge of their own learning and decide, no, I want to do it this way, or I want to do it that way. Okay, so, and then it's a very simple exercise that I included things like goggly eyes so they can bring their creature to life, but also I was very much what I have to do is because I'm based in foundation, I have to explain to the parents what they need to be doing with their child predominantly. So I do also include a little bit of advice for adult input. So this was just a simple discussion they will have with their child as they are making their animal. Okay, and it's all about discussing sharp corners, the size, whether they're pointy, whether they're curvy, and just being able to explore the properties of 2D shapes whilst having fun. And the response, I'm hoping, is going to be very good. This lesson actually goes live tomorrow, so fingers crossed for a very good response. We just move over to the next slide, Mr. Pridmore.
Yeah, and I think the thing is you're saying there, Kieran, is it's all about modelling, and you're modelling as much for the parents, aren't you, as for the pupils. But they're seeing firsthand, and there's lots of ways of doing this. We do this within the learning platform we use, which is Seesaw, but you can use things like apps like Explain Everything that work incredibly well. And Catherine, you're going to show us, thank you for joining us, you're going to show us how that works at Upper Key Stage 2 shortly.
Yeah.
But it is a really effective way of working. And I think the bullet point there, you've talked about where you're giving specific vocabulary, Kieran, and you'll be sharing that as well. That just helps because parents know exactly the words that you'd like them to use and you'd like to get the children using in their descriptions. So let's move on to the next one for you.
Okay, so this is just a screenshot of one of the first lessons that I put together on halving. Okay, and the first lesson, I wanted it to be practical, to build up their conceptual understanding of what halving actually is before we move on into dealing with numbers. Okay, and this offered the opportunity to reduce the amount of screen time because it was a practical activity. The activity itself was all centered on helping their parents either cook dinner or make lunch, believe it or not. And just using their cutting skills, so working on their fine motor skills as well, and just exploring what cutting actually is. And this is the video of me finely chopping an onion. I delicately tried to cut it into half, and that was just an example of how to do it. It's engaging, it's interactive as well. So the interactive element, if we move over to an example of some of their work, so this is where the interactive element came in. So you could talk about what they're making, what they're having for lunch, and whether you like it, whether you dislike it, and so on and so forth. So it's creating that rapport that would naturally happen in the classroom environment, but doing it on an online basis, using your teacher voice to just reinstate that rapport that you have with the children. And they were very eager to build on the conversations. I'll send them audio recordings, marking their work, but also asking them questions. And they were very eager to respond and start some dialogue, and it went on for several turns as well. I think that exemplifies the intrinsic importance of building that rapport, especially with 4-year-olds, as they are most likely to forget who you are. So I thought that was a very good idea to do. And as you can see, the examples of some of the work, most of our children are healthy. Just ignore that pizza in the center of the shot.
All in moderation. All in moderation, Kieran.
Yeah.
I mean, the great thing as well is it is about vocabulary building, isn't it, at this age? And the fact that you're getting that feedback loop, so they're sharing back voice notes, mostly video clips as well, isn't it? They were sharing.
Yeah.
And then you can go back with your voice notes. It's really helpful because it is giving as much as you can, as close as you can to being in the classroom. It's not, it's not ideal, but at least you've still got that back and forth, that communication and dialogue, and real dialogue, rather than sort of reading it from a page. So really valuable. And cross-curricular maths, linking with cooking, linking with measures and capacity. There's so much you can teach there. But again, it's just inspirational, practical, and it helps parents with lunch as well. So lots to like there.
Yes. So moving on to this side. So this was actually part of our geography topic. So this was a hook that I created to get children interested in geography in the topic that we were going to do that week. So the story we were exploring in foundation that week was the gingerbread man. So it's a really good story to get your teeth into and create the hook for the rest of the week. So as you can see, there's 2 videos on the left hand side. And these are screenshots of a video taken that I went around using my iPad, just going around the classroom, surveying the damage and the destruction caused by the gingerbread man. Now, the children didn't explicitly know it was the gingerbread man, although they had a fairly good idea. So as I was panning around the room, I was picking out clues, okay? And then I asked children, I didn't know. I asked the parents to record their child's response and also who they thought it would be. So they've got to use their inference skills and explain why they think that. Okay. So then once we amalgamated and looked at all the responses, we had a little bit of a discussion in the live drop-in session that day. But then I divulged to them that I did have a secret camera in the classroom. I mean, we don't, Mr. Pridmore, I can assure you, that the 4-year-old, they did believe it. And then I said, well, let's check for certain. Let's see if the camera's picked up on anything. And this is where the video came in. And just try and take yourself back to being a 4-year-old and watching this video in your classroom.
And we do actually have this direct footage from this camera in the room. We're hoping will work for you now. So hopefully we take you through this. Here we go. Oh. There you go, quite brilliant. And that's by an app, isn't it? It's FX Guru.
It's FX Guru. It's free to download. They have loads of different effects. This actual effect was that there was a small charge for it. I think it was about 99p, but there is loads of free in-app stuff that you can use and download and create content just like that. And it works as a perfect hook that fed into our geography topic that week. So from that, our geography topic was all about exploring maps. So we started off by exploring an aerial shot of our classroom, and then we moved on to looking at an aerial shot of our school and then our local village. And then what we did is we referred to more cameras around the school. We don't actually have cameras, but then so what I did is I superimposed pictures of the gingerbread man in different areas of the school. And the task the children had to do was locate these locations on an aerial map of the school, and then we went on a little hunt to try and find the gingerbread man. And lo and behold, he was somewhere in the school causing mischief. Okay, but we did actually find him. So this app is absolutely amazing. It was like a 15 second recording that I did in my classroom at the end of the day. And then it's a simple, easy function to download. And then I converted it onto a link for YouTube. And that was easily accessible to both the children in school and at home as well. So that was really important. I just wanted to bring them all together, and then we had a live drop-in session where we all discussed it as well. So it was really good for that sense for children to see each other.
It's just really motivating and very easy to do. So you actually record that still footage with nothing happening, don't you? So
exactly right, yes.
And then it processes the
and
app.
then it does it all for you, the way I like it.
Excellent, perfect. So really good recommendation there, but just something that actually you got the value out of that learning, didn't you? It kept going because the children were so engaged.
They were completely engaged. They were completely hooked. And putting myself in a 4-year-old's position, that looked realistic to me. So I'm sure as a 4-year-old, it was completely believable.
High production values. So we're going to move from foundation now to the other end. We're talking about year 5 now, Catherine, aren't we?
Yes, so I'm at the opposite end of the school. So obviously the children are a lot more independent with their remote learning. But what's really important is that obviously their instructions are really, really clear for them to be able to see. So it's really important to get that teacher voice across, because obviously they're less reliant on their parents at this particular moment in time. So so I'm going to start with an English lesson. So we were looking at Macbeth. We spent quite a long time looking at Macbeth. And this particular lesson, we were focusing on the witch's spell from Macbeth. I'd asked the children already, so I'd given them some slides and we'd kind of shown the features and they'd been able to look at the features. But what I wanted them to do was to set an extra challenge for them in their poem that they were going to recreate themselves. And that challenge was based on them trying to identify the syllables in the actual poem itself, and also try and work out the 7 syllables, because in Shakespeare's poem, the bulk of the actual poem is based just on 7 syllables. Now, that's quite a tricky thing to do when you've got children at home. It's easier in the classroom. I did have some children in the classroom, and we were able to clap out children's names and find the syllables in the classroom. So that was easier to do, but at home it's a little bit more challenging. So what I wanted them to do, what I then did is I uploaded a voice recording of myself. So you see on the slide, I just kind of said to the children that I wanted them to try and read aloud the poem. So that was important, making sure they did read aloud the poem at home, and also try and find the 7 syllables. So what I first needed to do was to check that they fully understood what a syllable was. And the only way that I could do that was to obviously put my voice across, so they could hear me explaining what a syllable was, and also then saying a word and then clapping out, breaking that down into its components of sound, so they could recognise the syllables and then hopefully then understand that, being able to put it into the next slide that you'll see. But I think we've got that voice recording that you're able to share with us.
We have, yeah, we'll put that on, because again, it's about making those children as independent as possible, and they obviously did by the look of the work. So we'll play that now, and I know you love hearing your voice. It's always good to hear you.
So a syllable is a unit of sound, and you can break words down into units of sounds. So for example, if you clap along, you should be able to clap out the different sounds that you can hear in a particular word. So if I give you the word elephant, there are 3 units of sound. So it's elephant. Okay. If I give you the word football, there are 2 syllables, football. Okay, so see how you get on the next page, see whether you can find out all of the 7 syllables that are in each line.
So moving on, I mean, the thing is, having this as commonplace in the home learning, it is really useful, because again, it's just continuous modelling. And if you look at how this is all laid out, Catherine, this is all within our Seesaw platform, and other platforms that you'll be using in different schools all do the same functions, but it means they're not leaving the platform to engage with it either, are they?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's really important. It's really, really easy for them to access that as well. So with the functions on Seesaw, the voice recordings and the speech was the first one that I used in the last slide. On the next slide then, I then asked them the question, were they able to spot all of the 7 syllables? And I used the microphone, because that then shows you straight away on the screen that there is that recording that you do need to listen to as well. So straight away the children would then obviously play it, and hopefully they would be able to hear the syllables that they had then found as well, and work out and count them out, and that there were 7 syllables in each line. Now this video we can't actually play, but what I did is in every single line, so if you can see the first one, it says fillet of a fenny snake. I actually broke that down, so the 2 words did contain the 2 syllables. I then said that very, very slowly, and then said at the end of the sentence, obviously they were the particular words that had the syllables in, and then they were the 7 syllables. So I clapped along as well at the same time. What I also decided to do was also a visual representation on the screen as well, so that you can see the two words on that very first line. One is fillet and one is fenny, which are able to be broken down into their various components with the syllables in them. I hyphenated those words so that the children could actually see those particular words. So although I said I voiced the actual line out to them, I spoke the line to them, they could still see as well where those particular words were, where they could identify those syllables in them. And I think that was probably quite a useful tool as well, to be able to hear as well as see how we got to 7 syllables in each line.
It's all about modelling and making it as visual as possible, isn't it?
Definitely. Okay.
You can see the work that was produced.
Yes. So, well, this is just an example of one of the children's work, and she had very cleverly, I think, managed to get pretty much 7 syllables into the bulk of her poem that she had produced. And what was lovely is, and I wanted to include this one, is that she had put some comments on. So again, she wants to create. It's about again creating that rapport between us being in school, teacher at home, and also the children teaching school and the children at home. So she'd put some comments in there about how much she'd enjoyed this challenge, and she'd also commented that she'd shared her work with her mum, and her mum was really proud that she'd used the word non-perfection in her poem as well. So she was desperate to share with us what her mum had actually thought of all the vocabulary that she'd used, which was lovely. And obviously then in the comments back, we were able to comment back and say that we were really, really impressed with the work that she produced as well. The other thing that I'll just comment on about this is when the children did their poems, I also encouraged them, if they wanted to send either a voice recording back of them actually reciting the poem, or a video recording of them reading aloud their poem. Now, unfortunately, for data protection, I can't show any of the videos, but there are a lot of videos that did come in of the children that were extremely proud, and they wanted to actually read aloud their poems. So I think obviously having that teacher voice originally to read aloud the poem to them, then also encouraged them to respond accordingly, and that was really, really nice to see.
It's always good to see that performance element come in, and the fact that obviously we're getting high response rates here. And I think when you think about getting high response rates, it's doing things that are motivating, stimulating, engaging. And I think in all those examples that you've seen, children were just really keen to get involved and take part, weren't they?
Yeah, they were really, really keen. Yes, it was a lovely response that we had to that poem. So yes, it was fantastic. Okay.
So on, a bit of art now, I think.
Yes, so a little bit of topic work, and again, I've chosen this as an example because I chose to upload a video onto this the art lesson that they were doing. So we were originally looking at it's a sequence of art lessons that we were looking at. So we were looking at Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution, and we'd be looking at some of the sketches that he'd actually been doing on the Galapagos Islands. So the very first lesson that we looked at, the children had some examples of his work, and they'd gone on to Seesaw. So I'd uploaded those visual images. They'd had to have a look at those, then they had a go at actually copying and sketching out some of those pictures as well from Darwin's diaries. So the second lesson was where I wanted to build it up. So I wanted to introduce to them, rather than just doing outlines of drawings and sketches, I wanted to introduce some different shading techniques. Now, to do that by just uploading photographs for them to follow is quite a difficult concept to do. So what I thought was really important was to get some videos out there for them to actually see, so they could see how it's going on, they could engage with the actual techniques, and obviously hopefully get a much better response from them, and which is what happened. So the first thing that I did was I uploaded a YouTube video. So this was an actual artist, and she was showing some of the children how to do some basic sketching techniques. So it was just a one direction sketching technique, but she also showed them how to apply light and shadow to pictures to make it 3D. So that was the first thing that they had to do. So I incorporated that. After that, what I then did, and this was the bulk of the lesson for them to follow, is I decided that I would show them me actually then doing the next techniques that I wanted them to do. So having seen a professional artist do it on YouTube, they could then see me, who's not the professional artist, but somebody having a go and having a challenge and trying to achieve these results. And then by modeling that, hopefully that would then inspire them as well to kind of get the same results that I'd also got, and probably even better, because a lot of them were better, the results that came in. So yeah, that's what I then did. I recorded myself and then uploaded it onto to Seesaw, and it was about a 3 or 4 minute video that they were then able to copy and see the results in the finals, the lesson, which I'm going to show you now. So thank you, Mr. Pribnall. So the next slide then is the finished article. So what I just wanted to be able to show you was the lesson 1, which was the very basic outlining of the actual organisms that they'd had photographs of or pictures of, which I'd uploaded onto Seesaw for lesson 1. The second lesson was then actually learning and practicing these new techniques. So you can see already, just from that example that I've put on there, the progression from lesson 1 to lesson 2. And I think actually having the video recordings and then for something visual for them to see to help with their techniques made a huge difference. And yeah, I was really amazed by even just the obviously those techniques that they came in, they sent in. And then what then I was absolutely wowed by was the final results. So they don't actually put everything into practice. They put the outlining, they put the shading techniques they learned, and they then produced some amazing pictures. So you can see the very last one implementing their learnt techniques in that final piece of work. That insect, that bug is just phenomenal. And I just think that to have achieved that, if they just had it just from photographs, and I hadn't actually used a teacher voice to show them videos, to actually encourage them to do specific techniques, I don't think we'd have had the same outcomes that we actually did get by obviously using those. So I think, yeah, that was a really good example of where teacher voice worked really well for them being at home.
I think those examples speak for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
The fact that you engaging in that way really helps. And I think, although hopefully now on the 8th of March we'll get classes back in, there will be still periods of self-isolation where we'll need to be working remotely. And so these skills we've found have been of tremendous benefit. The pupils have all responded incredibly well. And it's the quality of work that actually you're able to get back and the pupils are able to produce if you can emulate as far as possible what you would do in the classroom. I think that's the message that I think both of you would probably want to share from this webinar today.
Mm.
And the other thing is, it doesn't end there. I mean, if you think about this kind of approach, if you're videoing a demonstration within a classroom, the fact that you could then review that on a tablet device while the teacher is working with another group in a blended learning approach is certainly something we're exploring here at Elizabeth Woodville. And I think lots of schools will, because it's almost like you're having a teacher with you even when they're perhaps teaching a different group or working on a different subject. So it's worth having that to refer to. A bit like any kind of author or artist, the more you refer to an image or to a how-to video, the better you can get. So yeah, really, really great examples. Thank you very much for taking us through those.
Thank you.
So we're just going to finish up, and Catherine and Karen are going to stay with me, where we just talk about different challenges and interactive elements. This one featuring you both. Talk me through this, Kieran. So let's
yes,
this
is my favourite part of the week. I'm Groovy's answer to Mr. Joe Wicks, and what we do is we record a set of Joe Wicks style PE lessons centered on fitness, getting them moving. But we also record a weekly challenge. Okay, so whether this is reaction throwing and catching, juggling, throwing items into a bowl, basket, whatever they've got, I set a score, and believe it or not, they are very eager to beat my score. Okay, so with each submission that we get, I add audio responses to all the submissions, and that increases the rapport that you would naturally have with children in person, but also ignites and sparks a little bit of competition for the following weeks too. So that's a weekly challenge. So in our PE lessons, we also offer an interactive element. So as you can see in the picture provided, we do have a special guest each week. In this video screenshot, it is Mrs. Parks. And what we do is we ask the children to vote each week by a comment or an audio response on who they would like to see in the video the following week, taking part in our PE sessions. And we've got hopefully a few more of these left to go, so there's plenty of opportunities to get involved. And we did last half term go out on a big bang when, due to popular demand, Mr. Pridmore did join us for our PE lesson.
Yep, still recovering. But no, it's been great fun. I think you've seen a lot of schools doing this kind of thing. And Catherine, it's just been great to really kind of motivate the children across the school, hasn't it?
Well, definitely. And also the parents as well. I did have one of the children's parents come up to me and say, having seen me in the video, it inspired them to have a go as well. So it's not just children, but parents as well joining in.
There you go. A future in sport for you both, no doubt. So we're just going to share with you, I think we've seen a lot of different whole school events and really imaginative ways of going about this to try and bring school into the home where possible. But we've got our Meet the Teacher events. A lot of us are going to have to do induction for new foundation pupils shortly. And so doing this, again, this is a Loom video that we did. We offered obviously a virtual opportunity as well. So having those opportunities is really important. We also did our home visits. We did an information session, but also over Google Meet. So you can actually have those direct conversations as far as possible. Almost as good as being in the room and being able to visit the school. So at least, you're getting that flavour. Assemblies, we've talked before about our assemblies. We always like to do a range of assemblies. And again, it's just great to be as interactive as possible. We get the whole staff team involved. We get pupils involved. Our most recent one was telling a range of jokes, and pupils put forward video clips, didn't they? That each class curated to try and make the teachers laugh. So it's always something that's interactive, and it kind of emulates what we'd be doing in school. Even though we can't have everybody together that way, we can do it remotely. So that is coming towards the end of the webinar, and we will just join back together in just a moment. But if you do need any more support from the programme, there are just 4 and a bit weeks left of this round of the programme. So if you want to get involved, please follow that web link. Do that as soon as possible. Even if you had support previously, you can come and ask for support again. We'd love to work with you, and it's great to see so many of the schools that we've been working with join us for these webinars. So we hope you're getting on really well with your remote learning, and please get in touch if we can help with anything. And so, yeah, just to finish, really just say a big thank you for tuning in. We know how busy everybody is, particularly in the first week of a new half term. So thank you very much for listening. What we'll do at this moment is we'll just bring back in James and Sarah, and we'll just be on that screen if anybody has any questions at all for us. I'll try not to think of any to really test you, Kieran and Catherine. But here we go. We've got James and Sarah back with us. So just having a look at the chat. Is there anything that anybody wanted to ask?
No, there's not been any questions from anyone in there. Someone has just mentioned about a free app for recording the session in there for their own usage and notes, which looks like it might be quite useful. Obviously, you do need to consider what you're doing with those notes for GDPR and stuff like that. But yeah, there is an app there for something like that somebody's mentioned. But no other questions have come through. It's been a quiet one, this one.
There you go. It's just been great to share. And I think if you think about your experience in Kieran and Catherine having you with us, the experience of taking on this new approach, particularly in your first year of teaching. And I'll start with you, Kieran, then come to Catherine. How's it been? Has it been easy to grasp and sort of be creative with the way you're working?
Yeah, so actually we use the Seesaw platform, and I find it really easy to use. If I can do it, most people can. And it doesn't take long to get to grips with it. And I really like the format and how it is structured, and how you can offer the audio recording and the audio responses in your links, because I know some of the platforms don't offer that sort of technology. So yeah, really good, really easy, and really simple to use, and effective as well, because the response we've had to the lessons has been amazing. And I think that's largely down to the engaging aspect that we do, the interactive element that we do, and the videos we do, and offering our teacher voice. I think that really exemplifies the importance of using your teacher voice just based on the response that we've had. It's been absolutely amazing.
Brilliant, thank you, Kieran. And Catherine, we've seen, the more you engage and you work as a teacher and try and emulate what you were doing in the classroom, the higher the quality and the standard of the work that's produced. And that art was a real striking example of that, wasn't it?
It definitely was, yes. I was so impressed with what the children had actually produced, and so many of them were just really proud of the work that they had done. So yeah, it was lovely to see the responses that were sent back to us, and yeah, the real high quality level of work that was sent in as well.
And I think that's down to the way that you've both engaged with it. The fact that you've tried as far as possible to put in as many video clips, as many voice notes. And it is about that modelling, isn't it? Showing as far as possible what we're looking for in a lesson. And if you do that, then the results will follow. So well done. Thank you very much for your involvement. It's been great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
James and Sarah, we will be releasing very soon details of our next webinar shortly, so please watch out. We'll put that across Twitter, and I imagine it will be tweeted out from the EdTech Demonstrator Programme Twitter as well. And we hope you can join us. So please subscribe to us, I think, on Crowdcast if you want to get updates there as well. So yeah, that's everything from us. Thank you very much for tuning in. We wish you a very, very successful half term. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.